Hey now, Matt here. Before I turn it over to AI podcast hosts Scott and Sally, just want to let you know they struggle with this one again with the word scarif. They call it scarif. They had issues with Jeddah. They call it Jada. And they mispronounce Saul Guerrera's name, calling him Saul Guerrera. So please excuse them. They're young. They're learning. I'm trying to teach them. Here you go.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving deep, really deep, into one of the most compelling figures from Rogue One, Cassian Andor.
And with Season 2 of Andor coming up soon, it's the perfect time to do it, right?
It really is. I mean, most folks know him from that one fateful mission, but there's a whole lot more to Cassian. A whole life led before that point.
Absolutely. And understanding those experiences, I think, is going to be really crucial to fully grasp the choices he makes. What makes this rebel tick?
Exactly. So we've been poring over declassified files, personal accounts, all that good stuff, to piece together his journey.
The foundation of a hero, right? What made him the man we see in Rogue One?
Right. And it all starts on a pretty bleak planet, gotta say, Kenari, 33 BBY, so way before the Battle of Yavin. This place was ravaged by mining operations.
Yeah, a really harsh environment to grow up in.
And that's where Cassian, or Casa as he was known then, spent his early years. Part of a small tribe of kids just trying to survive.
And not just survive, I mean, they were fighting just to exist. There's even a record that he claimed to have been involved in revolutionary activities since he was 6 years old.
6 years old? That's wild. I mean, what even constituted revolution for a 6-year-old on a backwater mining planet?
We don't have many details. It's one of those undocumented periods in his life, but you can bet it wasn't pretty. It speaks volumes about his upbringing, though. Constantly facing danger, fighting for scraps.
It definitely shaped him. That much is clear. We talk about a tough childhood. And then things take an even more interesting turn when he's about 9 years old. A Republic Transpo Corsair crashes near his village.
Yeah, and there's a bit of irony here. This ship from the Republic actually bore the insignia that would later become associated with the separatist movement. It just shows you how complex the political landscape was back then.
Right, all these shifting allegiances. And for these kids, armed with just blowguns and whatever else they could scavenge, this crashed ship was like alien technology.
A glimpse into a whole other world.
Exactly. And Casa, curious as ever, is eager to investigate the wreckage. But it leads to tragedy. Their leader ends up getting killed by the ship's survivor, a survivor with a blaster.
You can imagine the shock and fear. A blaster versus blowguns, there's no contest.
Absolutely. And the children, they retaliate. But Casa, he stays behind, actually enters the downed ship. Such a striking image, you know? This young boy amidst this advanced technology that he can't even begin to understand.
It's a powerful symbol of his early life. A life on the fringes, constantly encountering forces beyond his control.
And it's then that his life changes completely. Maarva and Clem Andor, along with their droid B2 Emo, arrive at the crash site to scavenge. Maarva sees Casa alone inside the ship and decides to rescue him, to take him off-world. It's such a pivotal moment.
It really is. You have to wonder what she saw in him. But that act of compassion was the turning point. It offered him an escape from that brutal existence, a chance at a different life.
Absolutely. He's taken to Ferrix and given a new name, Cassian Andor. His official records list his origin as Fest, burying his true past. But even on Ferrix, conflict seems to follow him.
It's like he can't escape it. And he carries the weight of the past with him, never forgetting his sister Carrie, who was left behind on Kenari.
Right, that sense of loss is always there. And then another blow. During the Clone Wars, his birth father is killed at the Carade Academy, protesting against Republic militarism.
Another stark reminder of the dangers of opposing authority, even one that claims to be benevolent.
Yeah. And there's this intriguing detail in his rebel file. It mentions involvement with a Confederacy-backed insurrectionist cell in the Outer Rim when he was a child.
Really? I hadn't heard about that. So he was actually fighting against the Republic.
It seems so. Not formally a separatist, but involved in small acts of resistance, throwing rocks and bottles at Republic walkers and clone troopers.
Wow. I mean, it's hard to imagine him as this young kid taking on those massive machines.
Right. But even those seemingly insignificant acts, they speak to a growing sense of defiance against any kind of oppression.
It's like those early experiences, even as a child, planted the seeds for his later rebellion against the Empire.
Yeah, and speaking of the Empire, their rise in 19 BBY changes everything. Ferrix falls under their control and tragedy strikes again. His adoptive father, Clem, is executed by the Empire for protesting.
Oh, wow. Another devastating loss.
It's brutal. And Cassian, understandably enraged, even confronts clone troopers. We know he also spent time with anarchist groups, even getting into trouble for attacking an Imperial soldier.
So a clear pattern of resistance is emerging.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets really interesting. Cassian claimed he was forced to fight for the Empire on Mimban, but Luthen Rael later reveals that he only served as a cook for 6 months before deserting at 16.
So he embellished his past a bit. I wonder why.
It's hard to say for sure. Maybe he wanted to appear more hardened, more experienced. It's not uncommon for those who've been through trauma to try and project a tougher image.
It's a defense mechanism, and it makes Luthen's insight into Cassian all the more impressive. He saw through the facade, recognized the potential beneath the surface.
Exactly. And we can't forget about Bix Kayleen. Their relationship ultimately didn't work out, which hints at maybe some difficulties with forming lasting connections, perhaps a consequence of his turbulent past.
Yeah, it makes sense. Trust and vulnerability are hard-earned when you've lived a life like his.
By 5 BBY, Cassian is back on Ferrix with Maarva and Beta Emo. Driven in part by his ongoing search for his sister, he steals an Imperial NS-9 Starpath unit from the Steerguard Naval Base. A risky move, but he's desperate for any lead.
And that desperation leads him to Morlana 1, where he hears about a girl from Kenari working in a brothel.
Right, he thinks it could be his sister. But it turns out to be a dead end, and he ends up having to kill 2 Preox Morlana guards to escape.
Another example of his willingness to use force, even deadly force, to survive and protect himself. It shows just how far he's come from that scared boy on Kenari.
He's resourceful, determined, and clearly dangerous. And all of this leads him to that pivotal encounter with Luthen Rael on Ferrix. Their first meeting is intense.
Luthen sees something in Cassian, a spark, a potential for something greater than himself.
Yeah, he tries to recruit him, appealing to his sense of justice, urging him to fight for something bigger than just personal gain. And after the incident with the Preox Morlana, Cassian agrees to join the Aldhani mission for a hefty sum of credits, adopting the alias Clem.
Aldhani was his real introduction into the world of organized rebellion, a test by fire.
And what a test it was. The infiltration, the daring escape through the Eye of Aldhani, it's all pretty incredible. And then there's Nemik, the young idealist who's fatally wounded but leaves behind his manifesto. And Cassian having to kill Skeen when he tries to betray the team.
So many layers to that mission. It's a turning point for Cassian. He sees the sacrifices involved, the unwavering commitment of people like Nemik, and he's forced to confront his own moral compass.
Absolutely. When he returns to Ferrix, he finds Maarva invigorated by the news of the Aldhani heist. She refuses to leave, even with the Empire tightening its grip on the planet.
A brave stance, especially given her age and the risks involved.
And then Cassian gets caught up in the Empire's web again. He's on Niamos, using a false identity, when he's unjustly accused and sentenced to 6 years on Narkina 5.
Narkina 5, a brutal Imperial prison. It's a whole other kind of crucible for him.
It is. He endures harsh conditions, forms bonds with fellow inmates like Kino Loy, and discovers the horrifying truth about the Empire's resentencing program. They stage an uprising, a desperate attempt to break free.
And they succeed. Against all odds, they manage to escape.
It's a testament to their resilience and their desperation. But freedom comes at a cost. Back on Niamos, Cassian learns that Maarva has died.
Another heartbreaking loss. He never got to say goodbye.
He doesn't show it outwardly, but that grief is clearly there. He parts ways with Milshi, who goes off to spread the word about Narkina 5, and Cassian returns to Ferrix for Maarva's funeral.
Knowing the Empire has occupied the planet, it's a huge risk, but he needs to be there.
It's a powerful moment. He pays his respects, rescues Bix from Imperial capture, and finally he leaves Ferrix. That chapter of his life is closed.
And a new one begins.
He seeks out Luthen Rael, ready to fully dedicate himself to the fight. No more hesitation, no more ambiguity. He's recruited by General Davids, driven into rebel intelligence, rising to the rank of captain.
That's a significant step. He's no longer just a hired gun. He's a committed soldier in the rebellion.
And a skilled one at that. He becomes known for his willingness to do whatever it takes, often working alone on dangerous missions. He operates under various aliases, builds a network of contacts, and sees firsthand the brutality of Imperial rule.
He's in the thick of it, and the files suggest that he wrestles with the morality of his actions. He follows orders, but it clearly takes a toll on him.
It's interesting, there's a note that suggests he was even more conflicted than Saw Gerrera.
Wow, that's saying something.
Right. It shows a depth of character, a struggle between the need to fight and the weight of the actions required.
And by 2 BBY, Mon Mothma unites the various rebel cells into the Rebel Alliance. It's a turning point in the galactic conflict.
Setting the stage for Rogue One. But before that, there's one crucial encounter. The mission to Wikiko to recover Imperial protocols.
That's where he meets K2SO, right? The reprogrammed Imperial security droid.
That's him. It's an unlikely pairing, but they form a strong bond.
And a highly effective partnership. K2SO becomes Cassian's loyal companion and a valuable asset to the rebellion.
And then, the path to Rogue One truly begins. Investigating Imperial Kyber crystal shipments, encountering the Ring of Kafrene, and then the devastating revelation of the Death Star, a weapon capable of destroying entire planets.
The stakes are suddenly raised exponentially.
Absolutely, and Cassian's right in the middle of it. On Kafrene, he's faced with a terrible choice to kill his informant Tivik to protect the mission.
A chilling reminder of the moral compromises required in war.
Then he's sent to Wobani to extract Jyn Erso, the daughter of Galen Erso, who's been forced to work on the Death Star. But Cassian has secret orders from Draven. Assassinate Galen.
So much weighs on him at this point. The fate of the galaxy, his own conscience, the lives of those around him.
It's a lot, and it only gets more intense. Their journey to Jedha, encountering Saw Gerrera and his partisans, witnessing the horrifying destruction of Jedha City by the Death Star. It's a turning point for everyone involved.
A visceral demonstration of the Empire's power and the urgency of the rebellion's mission.
Then, the mission to Edu. The desperate attempt to find Galen Erso, the crash landing, Cassian's internal struggle over Draven's orders, the rebel attack that inadvertently kills Galen, and finally, his rescue of Jyn.
Chaos and tragedy. It's a wonder they made it out alive.
Back on Yavin 4, Jyn confronts Cassian about his mission, but ultimately they find common ground, a shared determination to steal the Death Star plans from Scarif. And so, Rogue One is born.
The culmination of everything that's come before?
Their infiltration of the Scarif security complex, K2SO's heroic sacrifice, the desperate scramble to transmit the plans, and then those final moments on the beach as the Death Star fires. Cassian and Jyn knowing their fate, finding a moment of peace before the end.
A powerful and tragic end to a remarkable journey.
From a boy fighting for scraps on Kenari to a man who sacrifices everything for the galaxy. Cassian Andor's story is one of resilience, loss, and ultimately, hope.
He embodied the spirit of rebellion, an ordinary man who rose to meet extraordinary challenges.
And it all started with those early experiences. The hardships he faced, the losses he endured, they shaped him into the hero he became. It makes you think, doesn't it? How do those formative moments, even the most difficult ones, mold us into who we are? What aspects of Cassian's journey resonate with you? And what does his sacrifice tell us about the power of individual action in the face of overwhelming odds? We'll leave you with those questions as we await the next chapter of his story. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the life of Cassian Andor.